Hey guys, what's happening? So we're back for more of our coverage on Ultimate Black Panther, where now with us having this whole dark vibranium situation going on, all vibranium in Wakanda is now a threat. So before T'Challa finds a solution, T'Challa's got to switch to a Panther suit that has no vibranium. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so jumping back into Ultimate Black Panther, in our last talk we had seen Anan, the Sorceress Supreme, release one of the sentient beings inside of the vibranium, who she had also given a physical form, who later would just be referred to as the progenitor. And like we saw, this led to Anan, T'Challa, and Storm fighting this thing for a brief while before Anan opened the portal so they can send it away. And when T'Challa asked Anan where did she send it, she just told him deep space, and that was that. But when we come back now a month later, we pick up in Nigeria, where like we've seen before around Africa in this universe, a group of mercenaries have set up shop here. And from the start of this series, cause now we're like 14 issues deep, but from the start of this series, this has been an issue that's taken a backseat, and mainly because T'Challa really didn't know much about these guys, because prior to his father's death, he wasn't doing anything outside of Wakanda. And it was really only Storm and Killmonger doing anything about it before the whole war with Khonshu kicked up, and he started attacking them as well. But all we really know about these mercenaries leading up to this is that there's been some cases where they were hired by a larger company to keep an eye on a refinery, and there's been other cases where these mercs just been going around taking what they want. But going back to the group of mercenaries that we find here, all we know is that they're protecting something that they refer to as their prize. But it's not long before a government strike team swoops in to take it from them. And with how it's done, Bryan Hill doesn't go into much of the details here, and likely because of how much of this ties back into some of the big reveals we're still waiting on, like with the Sorceress Supreme and her true intentions, as well as Matron Amala and the Voodoo Khan, who haven't told T'Challa everything they know about vibranium. Though we do get a direct response from Matron Amala about that secrecy in just a moment, but in the here and now, a lot of focus is being put on the government agent by the name of Addy, or as these mercs would say, Govment. These dudes from the government. But for a moment here, we see a ton of these government soldiers just get destroyed. All of them with the exception of one by the name of Adi. And it's either Adi or Addy, not really sure. But the big merc and a couple of others, they basically take out this dude's whole team. And in a lot of ways, it almost seems like there's an unusual amount of focus being put on this one guy. Because for like the first 10 pages, it's all about him and how he's able to single-handedly take down the rest of these mercs. And I think this is more important than what it seems to be. And I'll go deeper into that when we get back to Anan, the Sorceress Supreme, because this comes off like we're being shown more of the answers that she's not explaining. But going back to this guy Addy for a moment here, when he makes his way back to the bigger mercenary, this dude is surprised that Addy's still alive, because this dude's out here using Omni movement, and he's cutting these guys down as if he could have done this mission himself. And before you know this dude Addy, he takes out the big merc, only to soon after discover that there are two left. So he handles the two of them and it's clear. And just after that, he radios in reporting that he's the last man left and all the mercs are down, and this is where he's instructed to recover the cargo. So he heads inside saying all that matters is the mission, and this is where we find out the cargo his team was supposed to recover was vibranium. But when he radios back to command to let them know that he has eyes on the cargo, he gets no response just before he's met by a very familiar figure, who's only been referred to as the progenitor up to this point. And right here, this guy just looks at the soldier. He says, "You have the blood for the vessel. You will do." And so at this point, I'm sure a lot of you guys have noticed something here, because in the last issue, Anan, the Sorceress Supreme, she told T'Challa that she sent this guy into deep space. And she may have, only for him to find some kind of way back. But from the time that we've met the Sorceress Anan, all the way up to this point, her true intentions have been a mystery. And things get even more suspicious when we head back to Wakanda, because when we do, we find out that Anan has been in a state of meditation for the past 30 days. So basically ever since the end of issue 13. But since then, she's told T'Challa and Shuri that she's working on the dark vibranium situation as far as preventing it from getting any worse. So in the meantime, Shuri's got her hooked up to machines to keep the sorceress hydrated and make sure she gets her nutrients and all that. But even still, T'Challa and Shuri know that Anan can't stay like this forever, and they don't necessarily have the time to wait for her to snap out of it. So as it stands, they gotta take action without her. And when Shuri says here, Anan gave us a path, so walk the path we shall. She's referring to the whole situation with dark vibranium, which is potentially a threat to all vibranium, which is basically all over Wakanda. So to even begin to handle this issue, T'Challa's got to make some changes, and this starts with him asking Killmonger to be his general. And this mainly stems from the whole idea of T'Challa having the vibranium inside of him, with him hearing the voices and having the visions, so he wants Killmonger to be his general at least until they figure this out. And at first, Eric, he doesn't want to do it, but T'Challa lets him know that Okoye will help, And he didn't pick Shuri because she's way too rash. And even though Eric is dubious of everything, he's the one who has the most control over his emotions. And I mean, aside from him, Storm also would have been a good choice, but T'Challa says here that she looks at him like he stole something from her. And I mean, prior to this in issue 13, we saw that Storm wanted to leave Wakanda. And there's a lot more behind the reasoning to that, but with Eric being the one who wanted to stay, it makes sense that T'Challa would ask him to be the general, out of the two, at least for the short term. But nonetheless, Eric agrees and he accepts the offer. And he even suggests that T'Challa take Storm along with him, because he's only seen a fraction of what Storm's capable of. But as this conversation comes to a close, Eric tells T'Challa that he better hurry back before he gets used to being general and he makes some changes. And it's like, even though he's playing around, this makes it seem even more like what we talked about before, with Anan and T'Challa pulling Eric and Ororo apart. Because Anan has already expressed her interest in Killmonger, where early on she took notice of his strength. And even though we still don't know exactly what she wants to use Eric for, I can only imagine when we see it in action, it'll look a lot like the government soldier that we were shown at the start of this issue. And there's a good chance that her mind control by way of her whispers, or even by some other means of sorcery, will come into play. All we really know as of now is that she's had the past 30 days, and who knows however much longer, to do whatever it is that she's actually doing while in this state of meditation. But yeah, for the time being, Killmonger stepped into the role of general, while T'Challa goes forward to handle the dark vibranium. And come to find out, the next change that T'Challa's making, it's actually him ditching his vibranium suit, and instead taking on an older Panther suit that's been with Matron Amala in the Voodoo Khan for generations, that has no vibranium in it. And when T'Challa goes to Matron Amala to pick up this suit, he says to her that she knows more about all this than she's telling him. And her response is, "But I know less than can be of assistance. My silence is better for you. I wish not to fill your mind with conjecture." And that's where T'Challa's just like, oh, you'd rather just conjure. Which again is T'Challa expressing his suspicions of both Matron Amala and the Voodoo Khan. And I gotta say, I think it's really easy to just point the finger at Matron Amala, because this whole time T'Challa's just wanted information and straightforward answers, only for Matron Amala to speak in riddles and tell him about pieces of what's to come. But when she tells him here, the Voodoo Khan have fealty to destiny, and we use secrecy at our discretion, but Wakanda and its king have our loyalty, even if neither understands our ways. And I really just think it's one of those things where Matron Amala is doing just that. She's only telling T'Challa what she believes he needs to know. And I mean, it's not to say that she knows everything, but I can understand how she would believe telling him too much too soon could steer him in the wrong direction. But yeah, when T'Challa suits up in the older Panther habit here, he kneels before a statue of Bast, saying, "Mother Bast, bear witness, bless the days ahead. Let me not walk into darkness alone." And I gotta say, I've seen a lot of discourse online about T'Challa wearing this suit and even the vibranium suit before. And it's like the people who didn't like the open face because it made him think of Batman. Now that T'Challa has the classic Black Panther cape to go with it, those same people are crashing out on the Reddit forums because they can't take it. But I want to know what you guys think, whether you like it or not. Let me know in the comments. Because I'm digging the classic touch here, though I will say I do prefer the full covered face. But I'm not finna crash out over it. Brian Hill can give this dude Panther ranks for all I care. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to hear where you guys stand. And following this, when we head back over to Nigeria, we pick up with Adi's general, who's accompanied by a woman who he just refers to as American, as the two of them make their way out to where Adi last made contact. And again, we're not given a lot of details as far as the arrangement they have here. All we really know is that these guys are getting funding from the Americans, and the Americans want results. And right now, what's most important to them is getting this cargo. But as soon as they show up here, they're taken out of the sky when a purple glowing object slices their chopper. And these two have no idea what just hit them. But the general is able to manage a safe landing just moments after, so he can go check it out. And after he lands, he tells this woman, who again he just refers to as American, he tells her, "American, stay here where you are safe," just before this dude gets zapped. So the American, she's like, "Nah, I ain't staying in this chopper." But as soon as she crawls out to try and get help, she hears a voice that sounds much like the progenitor, with it saying, "You do not have the blood to be the vessel, but you will do for a short time. Receive us." Because as it would turn out, a select group of people are being taken and possessed by this dark vibranium. And even now the mystery continues as far as what these people will be used for and what these sentient beings inside of the vibranium want, and even if the Sorceress Supreme can be trusted. So yeah, we'll just have to stay tuned to find out. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.